Hi folks, Mark Armitage here. Just wanted to take a few minutes to give you an update on how things are going here in the Pacific Northwest, and also to thank some people for their wonderful donations that they've given recently. And let me just begin with that. Joel Howe, God bless you, gave $100, and I thank you so much for that. Every dime, every dollar that you give is going to try to rebuild this laboratory here in the Pacific Northwest, where life is a little calmer and I won't have as much stress, and hopefully we can work out things to where the budget is not as high as it was in Southern California. So thank you, Joel. Larry Flutie gave $50. Thank you so much, Larry. Daniel McCliver Daniel McCliver donated $70, and certainly want to thank him. And finally, Nicholas Gerard donated $10. And again, I really wish that I could find someone who was really interested so much in this work that they'd be willing to fund a foundation with maybe a few $1,000,000 to support the laboratory. Nonetheless, it's in the Lord's hands. All the equipment is here now. Everything's in storage and ready to put together. And so we're just waiting for the Lord to move. If He wants this lab to be resurrected to continue to do the dinosaur soft cell tissue work that I've been able to do. I just want to say also that many people are looking here at the end of the year for a tax deduction, and I can certainly do that for you. My church, Grace Bible Church of Oxnard in Oxnard, California, has been very generous, and they have accepted many donations for this work. And if you wish to send a check there, they would be very happy to do that for you. You'll get your statement after the end of the year that shows how much you gave. That way you'll get your 501c3 tax deduction. And so I would encourage you to do this if you're looking for somewhere to donate money. And bear in mind, this laboratory is really the only creationist laboratory in the country that is actually publishing in secular journals with the work on dinosaur tissues that I am doing. Nobody else in the world is doing this. So if you want to support this lab and donate to this lab and help resurrect this lab so that it can continue the work on soft dinosaur tissues, then I would certainly encourage you to do that. And here you go, you get your tax deduction for the end of the year. So thank you for that. I wanted to just give you a quick update on the beauty of the place that I'm at here. As you can see from this ocean photo, you can't make it out here on the photograph, but that's a lighthouse in the distance out on a sand spit, which is very beautiful at night when it casts its light over the water. This is the Strait of Juan de Fuca. You can see straight over to Canada, to Victoria and Vancouver from here. And so it's very beautiful. And every one of those little dots that you see in the water, that's a duck, that's a mallard that have come here. They must be from Alaska because they've come here to the Seattle area to overwinter. And there's also a beautiful preserve all around this beach area that was built about a year ago, put together so that these birds have pools to rest in and to swim in and to fish in. Well, they fish for seaweed and such and algae, and so they have these wonderful little ponds that they can do that in. Also, you can see a picture from my roof, and you see all this moss growing right on the top of the roof. I tell you folks, things are growing everywhere, and I'm going to try to put together some more pictures of some of the lichens and the mosses and other beautiful things that grow here that are just begging to be looked at and studied under the microscope. I'm just so looking forward to this. And here is an example of a branch that I brought back into the apartment to shoot a picture of. You can see the bright green moss growing right next to a beautiful lichen, and the lichen is a light green colored. And I've studied both of these, but in particular the moss. You see these little stalks sticking out from the end. Oh, by the way, the staples are there as a scale marker, so you know how tiny these guys are. But that's the sporophyte generation, and at the end of those rods or stalks that they put up are the spore capsules. In this case, they're not developed yet, but I've done a lot of published research on this before, and I'd like to show you what I found. So here's a couple of spore capsules that I photographed with my scanning electron microscope way back in 2007, and this was published. But you can see two spore capsules. The one on the right I crushed because I used a fine needle forceps to kind of move these around, and if you're not careful, you can crush these little guys very easily. But the one on the left is a fully enlarged spore capsule. It's full of spores, and they both have these little frisbee-like lids on them. They're called calyptra, and when the spore capsule gets nice and dry, that calyptra shoots off like a frisbee, exposing not only the pores that are underneath, but the mechanism to bring them out. So here is a picture of the spore capsule, a close-up under the scanning electron microscope after that frisbee-like calyptra has been jettisoned away. You can see all these little teeth that have expanded out now because the calyptra is no longer there, and you can see tiny little spores, the little round objects. Those are spores that are going to be sent out from this now open spore capsule. Now, I corrected a big problem in the literature because scientists were saying that these teeth would reach in and grab the spores and pull them out, but that's not the case. You see that gray arrow pointing to the netting at the center, which connects all those little teeth. And so all those teeth are connected, and they move in and out like a bellows system. And I discovered this by breathing and then holding my breath on this while I looked at it under the microscope, and the spores would come shooting out like pixie dust when I exhaled on it. So I'd like to make a comparative study of the spore capsules that I'm seeing here in Washington near Seattle with the ones I studied before down in Southern California. I think that would be very interesting to look for differences, and I guarantee you there will be some. Thanksgiving Day, I prepared a meal of turkey with a white gravy and rice, and then also made rosemary carrots, which were very tasty. And then I ventured out to make a quinoa, squash, and nut casserole. And wow, this was delicious. And be happy to share that recipe with anybody who wants it. But after Thanksgiving dinner, certainly went down for a walk to the preserve. But the next day, while everybody was out shopping, I went to this beautiful railroad bridge that is no longer a railroad. It's been completely prepared and stored and restored into a walkway, and it goes right over the Dungeness River, and you can see the beautiful river in the background. But again, these are just little teaser shots, and hopefully I can put together better shots for you to see of this beautiful area right near the Olympic Mountains in the upstate Washington area. Now this is one end of the street that goes by my little apartment, and very green. Everything's green around here because there's so much rain. Here's another view from the other end of the street. So what I'm hoping to do, of course, is to find a larger place with more room so that I can go ahead and construct the lab. But things are unavailable here. There's a real lack of good housing with good space. And so any support that you can give that would help to find a larger place would be great, and then I can get the lab up and running. Here are some shots of some of the beautiful lichens that grow around here, and I'm really excited about working with some of these and doing a study, maybe a comparative study of the lichens that I found here with some papers that I published along with Dr. George Howe years ago in the Creation Research Society Quarterly, we'll do a nice comparative study of what the internal structures of these lichens look like in a very hydrated environment. This is a little different. The ones that I looked at in Arizona, of course, pretty dry environment. They did thrive down there, but they had to take advantage of their ability to manufacture oil, lipids, and store them in the pyrenoid, which is an organelle inside of the cell of the algae. And so I want to see if Trabuxia is the same algal partner up here. Remember, lichen is a partnership between an algae and a fungus, and so I wanted to make sure that Trabuxia is the same algal partner, and see in fact if they're using the pyrenoid and these pyrenoglobules of lipids that they store for energy. Here they may not need to do that because there's abundant water available, and so that should be a pretty interesting study. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for your help, for all your prayers. I would ask you to please continue to pray that this lab could be rebuilt so that it could get back to doing the kind of work that I was doing before on the dinosaur soft tissues. I have the digs ready to go. The digs are waiting for me. I can go in the spring. I can go in the summer to some digs and find some new specimens and continue to find soft tissue and other specimens of dinosaur. But we need I need the funding. I keep saying we. I need the funding in order to do that. There are team members that I could pull back together, and so we could have a team together very quickly. But I need your prayers that God will move and He will allow this lab to come back together so the gospel may be preached using this information about soft tissue and dinosaur bones. Thank you, and God bless you.